So last class we discussed about the variables, data types, and different operators that we used as part of our programming language. And we looked into the typecasting also. How do we do the typecasting? Like how do we narrowing down this size of the variable, and how do we widen the size of the variable? Okay, so this we have discussed so far, and today we'll be discussing about like what are the control statements that we have as part of the programming language. Okay, so are you able to see my screen, guys?
Yes, Shrikant.
Okay, so fine, good. So we have, so when we talk about the control statement, we have three types of things which will come under the control statements. Okay, let me open this paint here. Okay, so when we see this control statement, so these control statements are kind of managing the codes. Okay, so if you have any codes and if you have certain set of rules, okay, so those rules we have to like our statements, okay, the statements that we want to execute as part of our control statements. Okay, like we have to control the execution of it. Okay, so this can be done with the help of the control statements we have in Java. Okay, so what are those control statements, and how do we use them? Is like, see, the control statement, first control statements comes on like, if else. Okay, so these are the block of code that we are going to write. Then we have like else if, if, else if, and nested if. Okay, so nested if. So these are first set of control statement. Then we have like iterative statements. Those are like for loop, while loop, do while. Okay. So, and after that we have another thing that is called a switch statements. Okay, so switch blocks, we can say switch blocks or switch statements. So how do we manage the code execution is like based on this. Okay, if we put some condition, if that condition is true, then we'll execute this block of code that is there inside this if block. Okay, so otherwise we go with the else if. If else. If else is like we have kind of statements of if this is true, then it will execute, otherwise it's going to execute the else block. Okay, so we'll discuss about this control statements like if else if then nested if today. So after that we'll be discussing about the iterative loops. Then we have a switch. Another one we have like break and continue. So these are the things that we'll be using for managing the code. Okay, so let's go and try to execute our program or write a program so that we can understand what are the different control statements that we are going to use as part of Java. Okay, so yeah, so these are called jump statement, guys. So I just forgot to specify these are called jump statements. Okay, so these are jump statements, and this is like switch statements, and these are like iterative statements that we have. Another one is like, so here based on the conditional statements. So condition statements are the selection statements, we can say. Okay, so first and foremost thing is like I'm going to create a separate package. Package is kind of a container wherein we are going to have all the classes residing in that. Okay, so here I'm going to create a package called control statements. So in that control statements, we are going to discuss what are the different statements that we have. I'm creating a new class. So I'm just naming it as like if statement. Tell me one certain condition that we are going to have it here. So my requirement is like, I need to go and check for the condition of voting. Okay. So what is the eligible criteria of voting in India? So let us take our nation as supporting voting with the age of the person greater than 18 years, greater than or equal to 18 years. Okay. And less than or equal to 19. Okay. So if person unfortunately is alive, so he can vote it. So this is the condition. Based on this condition, I need to allow the user to vote. Otherwise, I can just ignore it. Okay. So for this, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to use control statements. Within that, we are going to use the selection statements. What are the selection statements? Is like first I'm going to give the example of if statement. Okay. Let us take, we have age defined here. So the age is 18 years. Okay. So this person should be able to vote. So what is the condition? Age is greater than or equal to 18. Then we can write the system on. So you are eligible for voting. Okay. So this is fine when we have the condition defined here. Okay. So here it says like you're eligible for voting. For this, what we have to do? You have to just create it. You don't have to create anything. Object. Yeah. Here you can see this is what we got it. Okay. You are eligible for voting. So we can put it in a separate method and we'll create an object and we can call it. Okay. So for this, I'm just writing is like public void age check. Okay. So here I'm writing a piece of a code. So I want to use this one as like a class level object. Okay. Class level variable so that we can access it throughout the class within the methods. Okay. So this is fine. This is like if statement that we are using here and we are trying to find out the age of a person. Okay. So, but in certain terms, what we can do is like we can still go and check for this. Okay, we are not going to hard code any of these variables when we are considering this set of inputs that we are coming as part of like dynamic. Okay, so in that case, what I'm going to do is like I'll just write a small piece of a code which will accept the value from the console. Okay, so for that we have a class called scanner. Okay, so scanner is equals to new scanner of. So this is like simple syntax dot in. Okay. So dot input string. Okay. So scanner is this scanner class will help you to read the data from the console. So this I'm making it as like a dynamic. I'm not hard coding any value here. Okay. So it is like kind of a runtime. I need to accept the value. Okay. For this, what I'm going to do is like I'll just write a system out. Here I'm going to take the input from the console. Okay. And please enter your age. Here I'm going to accept this one in the form of age. Age is equals to, I'm not specifying any age here. What is that I can use is like see dot. There are like in scanner class, there are different types of data that we can accept from the console. Okay. So next is like it will accept the string. Next int is like it's going to accept the integer. Okay. So next int is like it's going to accept the integer. So likewise, we have next byte, next short, next long. Okay. So next float. So likewise, we can accept whatever data that we want to get from the console. Okay. So here I want to store this data in the form of integer. So I'm going to take as like int. So age. So it says like you have to specify some or make it as like a static. So we are trying to use this non-static variable into this static context. Okay. So that is the reason why we have to specify the static. But what I'm going to do here is like I'll try to take this everything inside this particular class. Okay, inside this particular method class. Sorry. So now we get the age and we are validating the age. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like I'm trying to call this particular method. So how I'm going to call this method is like I'm going to create object for this class. Okay, don't worry about this. What I'm trying to do here is like just I want to show you the example. But what is this variable? What is this class? What is this object? And what is the method that we are trying to use all these things are like part of our curriculum. That's why I'm going to explain you what every like in detail we are going to discuss about them. But for now, our context is like we need to understand if statement. Why do we use the if statement? Okay. So here if statement is like if some condition we are specifying here, if that condition is true, it will execute this piece of code. Otherwise, it will ignore. Okay. So for this, we are going to check some we are going to provide some values from the console so that at the runtime it will go and check for this. Okay. So here I'm going to take a very object. So here I'm creating statement because we are going to get this memory when the object is created so that with that object we can call the methods. Okay. So age check. So this is the method that I'm calling. Okay. So now what I'm trying to do is like I'll try to execute this code. Now you can see it will ask you for entering the age. Okay. So what is the condition? Age is greater than or equal to 18. I'm going to give 12. Now you see, so we don't get any output here because this condition is false. Okay. So if this condition is true, then only it will execute. Okay. So let me give another value here. During this execution, I'm going to say the 23. So we are eligible for voting. So what it says is like simple. So if we have some condition defined in the if statement, if it is true, then it will execute this. Otherwise, it will ignore. Okay. So this is about like if statement. We'll try to take the example of if else now. Okay. So if else is like quite simple. So you can see if something is true, then it will execute. Else you're going to execute something else. Like you'll be writing some piece of code so that user can understand. Okay. So here you see, if I'm going to enter valid data, then I'm going to get this message. But in case if I'm going to enter some invalid data, you don't get any message. Okay. So you can see because it is ignoring it. There is no else block in it. So it is like ignoring it. Else at 12, you don't get any output for this. But program is completed. Okay. So now I want to understand like what is that if I don't have a specified criteria. So in that case, what happens? I'm just trying to copy this code here. So I'm just reusing this code and pasting it here. Only thing is like I'm going to change this class name. Everything is same. Here I'm going to write else block. Okay. Sorry. Age did not meet the voting criteria. Okay, so now I'm going to execute it. Here I want to check with the 12. So it says like, sorry, age did not meet the voting criteria. Okay, so if this is true, it will execute this piece of statement. Else it will go to this statement and it will execute it. Okay, so another important thing, guys, if you have any one statement after this particular condition, okay, you need not to put the brackets here. Okay, you can ignore them. Okay, to just minimize the lines of code, you can see now it will execute. Okay, so it will produce the same output. 23. Okay, you are eligible for voting. This condition only applies when you have only single statement after these conditions. Okay, after this if statement or else statement. If you try to do something else after this, then it's going to. I'll say that I am here. So what it says is like you need to have a bracket because it's going to throw the syntax error. Okay, delete this total. Okay, so now if you put inside everything inside the brackets, then it will not throw any error. Okay, so you don't have any issues here. Okay, so like this, if you have only one statement that you want to execute after the if condition or else condition, that you can else statements, so then you can use this. Okay, so this will help you to minimize the code. Okay, now you got the difference, right? If statement is like if something is true, it will execute this statement. If else is like if something is true, it will execute this. Else, it's going to execute this part. Okay, so this is all about like simple if else statement. So now, yeah, so we talked about this. Now we'll go on to see the nested ifs. Okay, nested if is like, now this is fine, but I want to check for the nationality. Okay, so nationality, if Indian, if the particular person is Indian, then he should be able to vote. Otherwise, we are going to ignore that particular person, though the age matches. Okay, though the age matches. So here I'm going to give the if nested. Okay, so in this, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to take the same example, but I'm going to add few more lines of code here. I'm going to just create the object here. So now the age is matching. Okay, so after this, what I want to do is like I want to check for the nationality. Okay, so here I'm going to add one more if statements. Here I'm going to check for the okay. String is the kind of a class. Okay, string is a class in Java. It's not any data type. It's a non-primitive data type. What we say like which are non-primitive data types? Arrays, strings. So these are the non-primitive data types. Okay, so generally in Java we are going to call string as a class. Okay, so string. I'm going to see the nationality. Okay, so this also I want to accept from the user. So here what I'm going to do is like I'm going to consider some out is enter nationality. So here I'm going to take nationality equals to sc dot next. Okay, so s dot next is like scanner. It's going to take the value from the console. Okay, so value of the nationality that is coming from the console. So here I'm going to check nationality equals to India. Okay, so that is what the criteria, right? So you cannot, the other persons cannot vote. Okay, so you are okay, so you can vote. So simply saying that you can vote. Okay, so now I'll execute this program. So what are the things that we are coming from the console is like we are getting two things. One is like national age, another one is like nationality. I'm going to say I'm an Indian. So first is like you're getting this ring, and next one is like nationality, we have to get it. So it's not in this condition, so it should be true, right? So what we have to do in this case is like you're eligible for voting. So first condition, it is throwing this and it's checking for the nationality. So what is that I have given? Indian. But it has to. So what is happening here in this case? Now you see sc dot next. It should take the value as like if it matches, then it's going to execute this one. Can you mute yourself, please, if you're not talking? Okay. So let me execute this code again. So we are going to take, otherwise I'm going to create. So here it should accept the value as like Indian and it should check for this. Okay. So if this is meeting, then it should execute this particular statement. You can vote. Okay. So but what is happening here in this case is like it's checking this one and it's executing this. Then it has to come to this and it has to check for this condition. Okay. So let's go and see what is happening here in terms of. Let me write a small piece of code here. Don't worry about what is equals and all. Okay, so I'm just using some functions here to check for the conditions. So, but what is the essence of using this particular program is to understand the nested if. Okay, so here nested if is like if inside the if. Okay, so there is a if which is inside this if. If this condition is matching, it will execute this statement and it will again go and check for the next statement. Okay. So that is what the nested if. Let me just go and execute this program again. So here I'm using just simple equals. Okay. There is another condition that I'm using. So I'll say 23 and I'm going to say India. What is that spelling that we have used? INDIA. Okay. Now you can see you are eligible for voting. You can vote. Okay. So there is some thing that I've used earlier. So that is double equals to, instead of using that, I'm just comparing two values with the help of like equals to function, which is there in the strings. Okay. So don't worry about what is equals and everything. We'll discuss down the line. But here you need to understand, we are checking for some condition. If this condition is true, then it will go and execute this condition. Okay. So if this condition is not true, for example, if see, I am only 12 years old, I'm going to enter the nationality. Sorry, he did not meet the voting criteria. Though you are Indian, you are only 12 years, so you are not able to vote it. Okay. So now we'll go and try to check for the next condition. Let us take, and I'm an American. So here it says like you are eligible for voting. So because this condition is matching, so I'm putting the condition here. So this, if it is true, then it will execute this one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like, I'll just add this condition statement. I'm going to put under this. Okay. So two things should meet, then only you can able to put it. Okay. So first is like your age should be matching, and you can vote if you are Indian. Okay. So if I put 12, now you can see. If though you are an Indian, sorry, age did not meet it. Okay. So this is the expected condition. Next is like, we have another condition. Your age is meeting and you're not an Indian. Okay. So nothing is executed because this condition is okay, but this condition is false, but we don't have any else statement written for this. But here we are talking about only nested if. Okay. So nested if is like if inside the if. Okay. So there is another control statement that we can go ahead and use. It is like nested. Another one is like, so here I'm going to write some, yeah. So nested if else. So we can still go and have this nested if else. Okay. So here what I'm going to do is like, I'll give the example of nested if else. So nested if, you got it right. If inside if. Okay. If this condition is meeting, then it will go and check for this condition. If this condition is met, then we are going to execute this statement. Otherwise, we don't get any execution. See, we don't get anything output. But in case if you want to produce the output for this if statements also, what we can do is like, we can use the nested if else. Okay. So I'll write nested. Are you clear so far, guys? So what we are trying to do? I'll repeat it again. So if statement is like only one condition, and if this condition is meeting, then it will execute this statement. If it is not meeting, it will not do anything. Okay. So it will just ignore. It will skip and it will complete the execution. If else is like, if this condition is meeting, it will execute the statement. Else it will execute the statement. Okay. If this is false, then it will execute the statement. So nested if is like, if the first condition is meeting, then it will go and check for the next condition. Okay. So if this condition is not meeting, it is here we have else statement. So it will execute the else statement. Okay. So here in this case, if two conditions are met, then only the statement will be executed. Now we have another thing is like, we want to produce output for this also. Okay. For this set of conditions. If nationality is not Indian, then I have to get like, you're not eligible to vote because you are not an Indian. Okay. So that is a message that I want to produce. So for this, we are going to use the nested if else. I'm going to take the same example here, guys, to save our time as well as like use this code, which is already available. So here I'm going to write or paste it here. I'm just creating a object for this particular class. Okay. So now here, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to write the else. Okay. So else, I'll write sorry, you cannot vote as you are not an Indian. Okay, so first we'll have like 4 conditions here. One, if this is meeting, then we'll go and check for this condition. Okay, the first condition, second condition. Okay, both of them are true, then it will execute this one. If first one is true and second one is false, it will execute this statement. If first one is false, then it will execute this statement. Okay. So true, true, it will execute this. True, false, it will execute this. This one, sorry. See, after that we have then altogether like we have 4 conditions here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 conditions, 2 positive and 2 negative. Okay, in that case, it will execute this statement. This piece of code should be covered in case of negative, then this piece of code should be covered in case of positive. Okay, so let's go and try to check it. First one is like I want to give the valid data. Okay, valid data is like I'm going to give like I'll say that let us take I'm 35 and next I'm an Indian. So here I should have the eligibility. Okay, you are eligible, you can vote. So next is like condition. I'm 35, but I'm an American citizen. Okay, sorry, you cannot vote as you are not an Indian. Okay, so this condition also satisfied. So next condition is like I am only 17 years old and I'm Indian. In this case, age did not meet the criteria. Okay. Yeah, we have this another one is like I'm 12 years old and I'm an American. Okay, sorry, age did not meet the voting criteria. Okay, so first it should satisfy this, then after it should satisfy this. Okay, if this is not satisfied, it will execute this block. If this is not satisfied, this will execute this block. Okay, so this is about like nested if else. Okay, so here we are going to find out the largest value among the 3. Okay, largest number. Let us take largest number. Okay, so who is going to help me out with this? So I want to check something. The largest number. Okay, so here we are going to use if else statements. Okay, so if else nothing but if else and else if statements also. Okay, so these are the statements that we are going to use. So I'm going to just write a pseudocode here. Okay, I'll take a notepad and I'll try to write a pseudocode. So what is pseudocode is like piece of a code that it's kind of like algorithm. Okay, so it's kind of like an algorithm that we are going to use, and with that algorithm we'll understand what is that we are trying to achieve. Okay, so here I have value 20, A value is 20 and B value is 10 and some C value is like 30. Now I want to find out which is the biggest value in it. So what are the conditions that we can apply here? So generic, I mean like think about from the mathematics. Okay, don't worry about like what is the program and all that we are going to write. Okay, so about the mathematics, what are the conditions that you can check here? Now we are familiar with the logical operator as well as like bitwise operators. Okay, so we'll think about logical operator from the bitwise. Don't worry about like bitwise also, it will help you to understand. But I'm going to use logical operator. Now tell me, try to frame the logic. So with this logic, we'll find out the largest number in the given 3 numbers. Can someone give a try?
C is greater than B and A.
So use first, okay? So first what you are going to do is like A is greater than B. And if A is greater than B, go and check if A is greater than C. Right. Both of them are greater, then what you do is like you are going to write like no, A is greater. Okay. Then what is the other things that we have to check? If both the things like if A is greater than B, then go and check this A is greater than C. If A is not greater than B, let us take like A is not greater than B. Then what we have to do? What are the other conditions that we have to check now? Now we are comparing A value with B and C. Okay. Now what we need to do? We have to compare B and C value now. Okay. So B is already compared with A and C is already compared with A. What are the 2 values that we have to compare now?
If B is greater than C.
If B is greater than C, then which one is greater now? Otherwise, final else, what I am going to say that C is greater. Okay, so before writing a program that you have to frame this logic like this. Okay, first you'll see what, let us consider we have like a values like a is greater than b. Okay, so this is true because 20 is greater than 10. This is true. This part is true. Now, in case of logical operator, what we talk about, like if this one is true, it will go and check this one. Otherwise, it will skip this. If it is false, it will never go into this particular condition. So here, 20 is greater than 10. This is true. Now, it's going to check for this a value. Okay, now the what is the value of a? It is 20 and c value is 30. So this condition is false. Okay, this whole condition is like, now this is true, this is false. Then what is the output of AND condition? If false, if true and false. So what happens? The ultimate output will be like false.
False.
Okay, a is not greater. Then what happens now? It will come here and it will check value. B is greater than C. What is the value of B? 10. 10 greater than 30. This is false. So then what happens is like if else if, see, if checking for the first condition, if this is true, it will execute this one. Okay, then it will come out of this loop. Okay, come out of this particular loop. Loop in the sense you can say that it will just come out of that particular block. Okay, so it will print the statement, it will come out of this and it will terminate the program. Now, if it is true, this will execute. If it is false, then what happens? It will go to the else if again. If again, it will be checking for the condition. So when do we use this else if? Is like we have some conditions that we have to check after this condition is false. Okay. So if that particular condition is false, then it will go and check for the other condition. Okay. The other condition. Here, why aren't we putting this value again else if? Because ultimately we have only one value that we are going to check it, right? So we never check like, again, A is greater than B or C is greater than, see, we have done this operations here. Okay, we have done this operations here. That's the thing, but condition checking is done for A, B, C in the first line. And in second line, we have done the condition like, checking for B and C. Then finally, ultimately, we have one value that is like greater. Okay, so finally what happens is like, it will go and execute this else block if all these conditions are false. Okay, so let's write this program here. So what are the values that we have to consider? Int A 20, B is equals to 10. So we'll take the same example and C is equals to 30. Okay. So this is like only piece of code that I'm going to write, right? So for this, I'm going to write the main method again. So inside this main method, I'm going to create the local variables. So tell me the condition. If A is greater than B and what is that? A is greater than C. If this condition is met, then I'm going to say that A is greater. Otherwise, I can write a value here is greater. Now tell me what is the other condition that I need to check? Else, if, tell me, B is greater than
C.
Okay, system out. Then I'm going to write which value I need to print here. B is greater. Finally, what is that value that we left with? The C value. System out plus is greater. Okay, so let's go and execute this program and see what is the output. Which value is greater? 30 is greater. Okay, so here I'm going to change the value now. We'll make it like 100 and I'll make it. So which value is greater value? 200 is greater. Okay, so let me check. Let me just say that 200 EA value. Right click is greater. Okay, so let me put here 1000. So which value should be the greater now? B is greater. So first it verified it's failing and then it's comparing with B with C. then here we can see B is greater. Okay, so if put some value here 3000. So what is that we have used here is like else if. Okay, else if statement. If else if statement. So these are the statements like selection statements that we use. Okay, so we'll write a program here. So this is one program. So generally, then we ask you in the interviews like which one is the greatest and what is the logic behind that. Okay, so here we are finding the grade of a student. Okay, grade of student based on the marks. Okay, grade of a student based on the marks. So I'm going to take one, one subject, and based on that subject, I want to grade him. Okay, I want to give the grade in that particular subject. Okay, so for this, what I'm going to do is like this is a reusable method. So for that, I'm going to write a simple method. So I'll say that public void get grade. Okay, so this is a method that I'm creating here. So with this, I'm going to get the grade of a student. So here I'm again using this scanner class to get the data from the console. So for this scanner class will be available in the util package. So this is a util package. Inside this we have this. Okay, so it is already given. This is what the syntax that we are using. Okay? Scanner is equals to new scanner. I'm going to just copy it here and paste it. Okay, system.in is like input. We are getting the system, the value from the system. That's nothing but the console. Okay, so console.in. This is nothing but we are getting the value from the console, and it will be stored in this particular variable. Okay, so here I'm going to give it as like marks. Then what is that we are going to get is like, I'll say that enter marks of student. Okay, so before this, I want to just take this and I'm going to paste it here. So one is like I'm going to get the marks, another one is like I'm going to get the subject. For example, subject. So what is that we have to use when we want to read the data from the console as string? We have to use system.next. Okay, integer is like system.next int. Enter subject name. Marks of the subject, otherwise marks of the subject. So I can say subject values like now whatever subject that we are trying to enter will be stored in this variable and marks will be stored in this variable. Okay, so this is fine. We are getting these values now. If marks, okay, so what is that we are trying to do? I have a certain conditions here. Okay, so I'm designing a particular application. So where in this application will check for the marks and it will give the grade. Okay, so this is nothing but a small school application. Okay, school, and we need to select the marks of the student and we need to give the grade. Okay, so here we have certain conditions. If marks greater than or equal to 35, I'm going to give the grade as like C grade. Okay, if marks what is the next condition? Greater than or equal to 36 and marks less than or equal to 55. So what is the grade I'm going to give? Grade from B. Now marks greater than or equal to 56 and marks less than or equal to some 25. So I'm going to give the grade A. Okay. So and last condition is like marks greater than or equal to 76 and marks less than or equal to 100. grade A plus. So finally else block would be like, else fail. That is nothing but final condition. If nothing, if it's not meeting any one of these conditions, then we are going to say that fail. Okay. So now what are we going to do here is like we are going to frame the logic. So how do you frame the logic in terms of programming is like we'll write a simple program. This is very simple program that we are going to write. Okay. Type greater than or equal to 35. Then what is that we want to execute? Grade A. Marks greater than sorry, what is this? It's a grade C. Grade B. So I'll copy paste this code because we are going to use the same thing. Okay. 36. So here 56. We'll write here what is that condition that we have is like 75 here. We'll reduce it to some 65 and we give grade A. Error as like fail. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is like I'll just create an object as usual that we have created object for the other classes. Okay, so just calling that method grade equals to new get grade. So I want to put something here. So that's something, but I want to show the user like what is your subject? Your subject. Okay, let me just put it a simple statement just to show the user that this is a subject. Your subject. Okay, so grade, you can say grade also. Okay, subject name. So grade shows like what is the grade and all. Let me execute this program and see. I'm going to take my favorite subject maths. That is like I'm good at maths. So let me put my marks as like 56 at least. Your subject name is maths and grade is 6. See what happens here. Like first it will check for this marks. So what is the marks that we have? 56. 56 is greater than or equal to 35. Okay. So it is greater. But it's not equal to 35. Oh, I'm sorry for this. So it is greater than or equal to 35, right? So what we have to make in this case, we have to get this is what is that I need to get here? What is the mistake that I've done here? Now you can you check the mistake and let me know?
E should be the grade.
Which one?
Grade should be.
Now you check this condition is like what is that condition? 56 is greater than or equal to 35, right? So even I give 100, I'll get the grade C. So what is the mistake I made here? Just think about the logic. What is that mistake I did? Look at the assignment operator that I did something mistake here. Okay. So let me just check it now. Subject name, maths, and I'm going to do 56. So what is that I got now? Grade A. But what is the mistake I did? So generally,
actually unity equal to
yeah, developers what they do is like they do this silly mistakes. Okay, so it's not about like thinking ability, but the thing is like you can see there are based on number of conditions that we have here. Okay, sometimes this copy paste, sometimes this reusable of code may land you some problems. Okay, so that's nothing but they would be facing this simple mistakes. Okay, so now if I give 35, say I got grade C. Okay, so less than that, whatever condition that we have specified here. So maths, I'm going to give 10 marks. So what is that? Your subject name and you failed because your marks are like, you can see you got this many marks are based on this marks. Okay. So less than, say if it is 35, then I'm going to get the grade C. If it is greater than or equal to 36 and condition. This is meeting. This one is not meeting. Then it is false. So here I'm going to give 56. 56 is like greater than or equal to the marks that whatever I'm giving. 56 is greater than or equal to 56. This is true. Okay. Again, I say 56 is less than 65. This is also true. Okay. So not these are like boundaries I'm checking, but I'll take some values which are like not the boundaries. Okay. So I'm going to give 60 marks. What is that I got? So this is what I got. Great. Okay. So and marks is like 60 marks. So I'm selecting one out of it, right? So between the range, that range is like 56 and 65. So it will check for this range. If this is meeting, then it will go and execute this particular statement. Okay. So let me check is something called science. I'm going to use something as like 90. See, A++. Because this is finding between the range. It's lying between the range 76 and 100. Okay. So I'll stop it here, guys. So you can just practice this program. So we have discussed the selection statements. And tomorrow we'll be discussing about like switch statement. After that, we'll jump into the iterative statements. What is while, do while, for loop, for each. After that, we look into the break, continue, and return. So these are jump statements that we are going to discuss. Okay. So please practice, guys. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. And the main important thing is like practice every day. Okay. So because you should not forget these things. These are we have a lot of things that we are going to discuss on a daily basis. If you practice for at least half an hour, that will give you a definite confidence about like logics that we are framing. So you can take like programs like you can see. This is a program that we are writing. Okay, so it's like very simple program. We can write it in any ways. Like if you can take other logic also, you can apply other logic. But I'm just taking the optimized logic. Whatever logic I feel it is working, then I'm opting that. So you can take another logic and you can try to frame the logic for this. Okay, it is also similar in this case. So whatever we have used. Okay, grade of student. So here also you can use any of this, like tomorrow we'll be discussing about the switch statements, right? So there we are going to discuss about the next approaches. How do we exactly check for this kind of things in case if you want to use the switch statements, like it's an alternate for else if statements. Okay. So thanks for your time, guys. If you don't have any doubts, I'm going to conclude this class. Please practice, guys. Practice makes you perfect, right? So please practice.
Sir, when will you give the notes? Sir?
So notes is like you want to have the notes for this program, or do you want to have these programs which are written here?
Anything, sir, whichever is possible.
So I appreciate you guys to just go through these programs, and notes is kind of like you can have this hard copy. Like these programs will be uploaded actually. So I should be uploading it. Sorry for that delay, guys. Actually, I forgot my credentials, and those credentials are not revoked yet. So probably I'll connect with the team today, admin team, and I'll get those access and I'll upload all these programs.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Meanwhile, I'll try to prepare the PPTs for this guys so that it will be easy for you guys also to understand. So I'm going to share this PPTs also. Okay. Is that fine, guys?
Okay, Shrikant, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Let's meet tomorrow.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.